Good morning, everyone. It is such a pleasure to be in Alaska. Since my plane landed yesterday afternoon, I have felt the spirit. I was saying I think it should be illegal to take pictures because it just does not convey the spirit. And of course, the opening session that was set up conveyed the same spirit as well. I'm also thrilled to represent the National Center for Environmental Research as a project officer managing the NIEHS and EPA Children's Centers program. And of course, the real champion, Kim Gray, who has been protecting and really nourishing this program, will be speaking now after me. These centers let me gather my thoughts. Yeah, so the centers have been funded by EPA and NIEHS now for 17 years. And we live in this changing and challenging world, which, as alluded to earlier, we live in a chemical soup, and our budgets are being threatened and cut. And so we have these setbacks, and in light of this, providing a healthy and sustainable future for our children becomes more and more of a challenge. And it's something that nags at me personally daily as to how can I personally do my job better so that we can ensure a better future. I can always find fault with others, but really, I need to focus in on myself and think, what can I do to make the field move forward better and quicker? Ooh. So I wanted to just put things into perspective, as Ruth said. Gina McCarthy always, when she speaks, our administrator, she says, you know, the EPA is not just for the birds and the bunnies. We are a public health agency. And within the EPA, the Office of Research and Development, our goal is to really provide the science and support the research that can promote the agency's mission. And at NSER, what we do is we fund the extramural research that goes on to be able to support the agency and, of course, environmental health. And this map gives you a quick snapshot of the 2014 funding that we did, and it shows you that we had more than 500 STAR grants, and STAR stands for Science to Achieve Results. And at EPA, what is really key is the fact that the research needs to end up benefiting the community, and that it doesn't end up as a file saved somewhere. So about $300 million of STAR funding for 2014. And I wanted to touch on the tribal program that we fund. In fact, a couple of weeks ago, we had a grantee meeting in North Carolina where we brought together the current grantees. And the spirit reflected what I sense here as well. There was a reflection on the spirit, and there was a reflection on the chemical contaminants, and there was a sense of community, and this whole addressing of your families being left behind, and this whole sentiment that I feel was reflected there as well. This program has been funded since the year 2000, and $11 million have been invested. There is a report that was put together that's available on our website, and I can send links to anyone who's interested. But the research addresses the lifestyles and practices, the communities, and the occupations and environmental releases that may significantly impact the tribal community. And so the research is conducted on tribal lands, and it is conducted by either researchers from the universities or with the universities that are tribal colleges and universities, as well as the tribal health organizations. In fact, the picture here is from one of the grantees. I'm using it with his permission. If you look to the left, you'll see the cot, the fold-away bed for the child. That's in this set-up tent when they'd gone on a hunting exhibit. So this map shows the centers, current and former. And so there's a network of experts that have been developed across the country for the past 17 years, and the aim has been to collectively look at the environmental factors that impact children's environmental health. And with about $300 million spent or invested by both agencies combined, and almost 2,500 publications, these centers have really established children's environmental health research and have brought it to the front of our discussions. They've built a critical mass of experts, which I think is key. Scientists, they've trained many researchers, worked within and with communities, added new cohorts, and formed many robust community partnerships. And they have also provided sound regulatory evidence, which I will be speaking to in the next couple of slides with a few examples. This is the Organophosphates chlorpyrifos story, and I won't go into the detail, but this slide, which was adapted actually from Linda Birnbaum and probably Kim, shows how an experiment started by one of the centers, the Eskenazi Center at Berkeley, which was linking prenatal exposure to organophosphates, resulted in impact at a regulatory level. So when 3 of the centers, Mount Sinai, Columbia, and the UC Berkeley Eskenazi Center, published their independent papers at the same time, it was on the nightly news, which for environmental health, that's really big. It was on the ABC nightly news. And so they were awarded, EHB awarded them a Paper of the Year award. And, you know, the Food Quality Protection Act, the 10X factor, is something, it's an ongoing saga, but EPA has been considering. They have added that back in for evaluating exposure for children. And additionally, if we take a step back, we'll see that, in fact, in 2007 in New York City, a landmark bill was passed that required buildings and schools to use IPM, integrated pest management, versus going in and just spraying the buildings. All of these things were coming about as a result of their research. And in fact, as of just this year, the EPA strengthened the worker protection standards for pesticides to be finalized January of 2017. For the first time, there will be, there is going to be a minimum age requirement for handling pesticides, so those under the age of 18 will not be able to handle the pesticides, and that's pretty remarkable. Another fantastic example is for arsenic. So when the Dartmouth College Children's Center published in 2011 that they had identified rice and organic brown rice syrup as a potential source for dietary arsenic, Consumer Reports took over. They started testing all sorts of other products. They published it. As a result, it started an extensive study by FDA. And in the meantime, products containing those geared towards children started being pulled off the shelf voluntarily. Additional research continued, and the Dartmouth Center demonstrated that 80% of the infants were introduced to rice cereal in the first year of their lives, indicating that the total urinary arsenic concentrations were twice as high among infants who ate rice compared with those who didn't. The highest urinary arsenic concentrations were seen among infants who ate baby rice cereal. And then in March of 2016, just this year, FDA completed their risk assessment, and they estimated that approximately 6% lower chance of developing lung or bladder cancer over their lifetime if infants were not fed rice or rice products, which is, of course, developmental origins of disease. I mean, so if you're not fed something and you're setting a trajectory. And in April of 2016, FDA proposed a limit of 100 parts per billion for inorganic arsenic in infant rice cereal. And I just wanted to say that, while I focus on two, there are other stories. The California Air Resources Board emission reduction plan for ports and goods movement cited studies from our USC-UCLA Children's Center, which had showed a reduced lung capacity from exposure to air pollution. Another success story is EPA's decision to ban arsenic methyl, the pesticide, in 2012, and that was because of work from the University of Washington Children's Center. Now, in 2015, one of the dirtiest oils, number 6 and 4, were phased out by New York City, and this was because of work that the Columbia Children's Center had done regarding polyaromatic hydrocarbons and the fact that they can lead to cognitive developmental delays and risk of asthma. And then the bottom picture is from the UC Berkeley Eskenazi Center. They were able to show growers, if workers on the field wear gloves, it doesn't impact the agility and the productivity. So it's now standard operating procedure. I wanted to end by saying that, it has really been the partnership of the centers with the community that has really also had tremendous success. And of course, I cited the things that were happening as far as regulations are concerned. But this picture is from a contest demonstrating at the University of Washington. The woman is saying, you are going to wash your clothes yourself separately, and I'm going to go out to a dance, and you leave your boots outside. Speaking about the, exposure pathway. And, just that center alone, they conducted more than 1,500 separate activities in Yakima Valley, and they reached more than 15,000 people. In fact, the grant is wrapping up, and they have been providing feedback, individual feedback to people regarding what they found in their blood and what is going on with them. Even children are sitting in the meetings when they're providing the feedback. One of my favorite stories is from the UC Berkeley Eskenazi Center. And one of the times when Brenda Eskenazi was at one of the events in the community, and I must say that they have done more than 540 presentations in the community during the life of their grants. One of the dads came up to her and said, "You're the reason why my child will not hug me when I go home." And I wanted to thank you for that, because we weren't aware of the exposures. And because of you, now we know. So I end on that beautiful note. And here is a list of all the different opportunities for grants that's available at Enter, and I'll be happy to email it to everyone.